Alright, we're going to install our main bearings and our crankshaft. I need to clean out my bores. I washed this down with some brake clean. Pretty good shape. So your bearing, you want to put it in with the tang like that. Roll it back and forth, kind of like so, to make sure that you can see that it's working, that it's going in correctly. Oops. That was the wrong bearing. It goes over here. Okay, so you rock it back and forth, and you can see the oil drillings here. That's what makes the oil go where it's supposed to go. Lubricate the crank and lets the crank right on a hydrodynamic suspension, it's called. Okay, we're going to stick them all in. We need to find our thrust washer, which goes right here in the center. Get that in a minute. We can do that one of two ways. We can either put it on now with some Siliglide or something to hold it in there, or we can roll it in after we're done. Okay, our thrust bearing is right here. We want to make sure it's not damaged. This one's got some wear on it, but it sets like so. I can either use some oil to hold it in. In this case, I'm just going to roll it in after we get the crank in. Makes it a little easier. So it's basically roll in like that. Okay. Make sure our crankshaft journals are clean. All our bearings are clean. We're going to come in here and we're going to put some oil in the bearings to make sure we're lubing stuff. Got my crankshaft picked up on the center two throws. Normally I'd pick it up on the two over from that, but this one won't fit in there that way. Just worrying about crank bow. As long as I'm not hanging it for a long period of time, I'm okay doing this. I'll bring it down nice and slow. Make sure it sets in there good. Go ahead and remove my straps. I'll roll my bearings in, put my caps on. Okay, we're gonna slide our thrust bearings in. You see, you lay them in here like so. We may have to push our crank one way or another. Other way. There it goes. Get that rolled in there. See how that rolls in there? Then we need to slide it back. Find a good place to try here. Okay. Slip back there. Slide our other thrust bearing in. And there's our thrust bearings installed. Now I'm going to show you how to roll a main bearing. A little tool like this, or a ground off bolt, something like that, to help turn it. We're actually going to go over here a little easier. So what I do with this, the tangs are on this side. There's no tangs on this side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll the engine. Till that starts pushing the bearing out for me. You can see we're rolling the bearing out. So basically I'd roll it all the way out, look at it, and then roll it back in. So the same way to roll it back in. Get real close there. Take my deal out so I don't lose it. I'm going to come up here with a screwdriver and make sure the bearing's in correctly. These tabs should be flush with each other. Since I rolled it, I want to make sure none of them moved. This is usually easier when it's in the frame, because the weight of the crank is hanging on the caps rather than hanging down here. They roll in and out a lot easier. Another way you can do this with a heel bar. You usually end up destroying the bearing doing that though. So. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, put our caps on. And we always want to go tang to tang. So the tangs are on this side. This one's got a mark of number 7, which would be up here. It also says front of engine here on this, on the cap, so it's kind of a no-brainer how it goes in. But I'm also going to come in here and put some oil here, on all the journals. It calls for some anti-seize on the bolts. I'm going to use oil for that. But there's my tang right there, you can see. Drop the cap in there. Obviously cleaned all this stuff first. See how it says front on the cap? So you really can't mix these up. Just don't mix up hole to hole. If you do that, you will when they build these things, they line bore this with these caps installed so that they get it at the correct, you know, it's perfectly round. Also, before I would have done this, I would have went through and put all my caps on, measured my my main bearing bores, my crank bores, all that type of stuff. Okay, I need to put my cap in. I've already seated the other ones. This one, after I set it in, I need to knock it down in there. It's a interference bit going in there. Then I need to put some oil on my threads under the head of the bolt. Do that on both of them. For speed's sake, I'm going to go ahead and run them in with an impact. Okay. Now I need to go through and torque my bolts. Okay, these torque to 190, and then they turn 120 degrees. So I'm going to go through and do my initial torque. Oop, oh, it seems too tight. Make sure it's not. We'll have a hard time getting it to turn otherwise. You don't want to overdo these. And you always start with the side of the tang there again, like I said. And it seems a little tight. We're gonna might have got a little too tight with the impact gun. I just buzzed them down. Shouldn't really use my torque wrench to back up either. But I'm doing it for, if it has a lever on it, you can do it. It's not as accurate in reverse, but you can do it that way. Okay, this unit here is a high torque. It's basically a hydraulic nut. We got to turn our bolts 120 degrees. So what I've done, I came in here and I marked them all there to there. So I need to turn it 2 hexes. What I'll do is I'll put a mark on my socket like that. And what I did, I already turned this one to there, and it's torqued. But you can kind of see how this thing works. There's a button here, and as I turn it on, this thing will torque really crazy torque values. The other thing is you have to make sure this piece will rest on something when you're doing it. So let's see. Make sure I'm thinking about this right. Yep, I'm going the wrong way. So this needs to come over here. I'd like to find a shorter socket, but I don't have one here for it, so I'm going to use this one. You can see this thing working as it turns. If you watch the socket and my marks, basically like I said, I'm turning 120 degrees. Notice it's up against this piece. You want to keep all your fingers out of the way. Okay, there you can see that it turned the bolt to the spot. So essentially I torqued this one over here already, and now I did this one, and I'll go through and do the rest. The other way you could do this is with just a bar, torque multiplier. Some guys will run them down and do it with an impact gun. I prefer not to do that. Okay, you can kind of see it's torquing the bolts here. Next one. Have to think about how you set these up every time. Okay. That one. Oops, see, I got it backward. And put this on the inside. That's right there. Notice I keep my hands away from all of that stuff. This thing will develop about 10,000 psi. Which equates to about 33,000 foot-pounds of torque, which is a ton.